This world is complicated, and thinking about seeing through your elbow is wild.
Super wild. I think the best thing we could do after spending all that time talking about religion and giving Christians their due and everything is I think you should get that porno magazine that you got earlier. Yeah. What's up, y'all? It's time once again for Putting on Airs, not just any episode, but another live in-person episode. Well, it's not live to y'all, but me and Cho were in the same room together when we recorded. If you listened last week, you already know that's coming. This is our New Year's episode, and because we were doing it live, as we pointed out to you last week at the beginning of that episode, we didn't have any airmail ready to go or anything. We apologize for that, but we're still 100% going to keep doing airmail and everything, so send them to us and what else, you know.
Yeah, send them to us at puttingonairs@gmail.com, and also go to Stay Fancy merch and get some merch. You know what I'm saying? There's all sorts of deals to be had after the holidays, but enjoy this, our New Year's
final episode of the 2024.
Right? That's right.
We'll see you in 2025.
Yeah, and enjoy and stay fancy.
Welcome back, Airheads. It's time once again. Putting on Airs. We're not in the Airstream studios. We're in the makeshift Airstream studios. We're together once again. Physically together. It's a little holiday treat for everybody. Christmas episode and New Year's episode. Well, we're in the same room together because we're still at the Comedy Condo at Zany's in Nashville.
We're in Airstream 1 because that's just wherever the president is Air Force 1. You know what I mean?
No.
That's not true?
That ain't how that works.
I thought it was whatever plane he was on was Air Force 1.
Maybe whatever
code word.
Maybe whatever plane, but I know, for example, when he's on that helicopter, that's Marine 1.
Yeah, but a plane.
That's how okay. I thought you just meant any transport.
No. Plane. Any plane is Air Force 1 when the president is on it, is what I mean. Yeah.
Because they also got on the ground, the president's thing is called the Beast.
The black car or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I'm saying that like there is like a plane that is usually the president's plane, but if the president for some reason happens to be on a Delta flight, that is Air Force 1 at that moment.
I did not know that that's
I think
how it
it
works,
is because it's still coded like that.
But would they ever allow that to even happen?
No.
Right,
I'm just saying,
hypothetically.
If hypothetically the plane they normally use as Air Force 1 is being repaired and they're on another one, that they don't call that a different thing. They're like, well, if the president's on it, it's Air Force 1. It's the first Air Force.
We're in Airstream 1.
We're in Airstream 1. Yeah.
So I got to start with a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, last week, I'm sure you guys didn't even notice, but I feel the need to bring it up. I was pretty drunk, very drunk for that episode. First time in a long time. First time probably since we were doing episodes together early on and both getting drunk and doing 5 in a day or whatnot. So, yeah, sorry about that. Got the hiccups, about threw up.
I deemed that he was hitting.
Yeah, he told me I was hitting, so sorry about that. You know, everybody, it's Christmas time. What are you going to do? You get drunk. But
this is how well I know you. There was a moment, because you were slurring, but everything you were saying was funny and everything was good, but you were slurring. And I was like, he's really tired. And we got to 30.
That also was part of it. But
we got to the 33-minute mark, and I looked over and I saw you make this face, and I know you so well, and I go, we're going to need to take a break. Yeah. And then, dude, you did your water trick or whatever.
I did my water trick.
We came back, and I was sitting here, and I made the comment to you where I was like, if someone's watching that episode, they'll think we recorded
in reverse
because it looks like Trae just sobered up.
Got sober halfway through it. And just so y'all, it's not like we took a 3-hour break and came back. I went into the bathroom and did
5 minutes.
Yeah, and I didn't boot and rally either. I didn't puke and get better. I got the hiccups, went in there, did my hiccup trick, which I guess I'll share it with people. I got it from.
You should. It's a good one.
I got it from the internet years ago, but it is to me the only, and everybody's biology is different, but for me, it's the only foolproof technique, which is what you do is you take a glass of water, you bend all the way over, you bend completely over at the waist, and you drink the water upside down with your breath held. And I know that seems like some, voodoo shit.
Yeah, but it always works for you.
For me, it works 100% of the time.
I mean, you were sober. It was weird.
The second thing, well, dude, nothing. I feel like nothing
makes you seem drunker than the hiccup.
Exactly,
absolutely,
and not even seem, but I feel like feel.
Oh
drunker.
yeah.
Like with the hiccups, dude. The hiccups when you're drunk is just like like a cartoon of a drunk.
It's unfortunate too when you're not really that drunk, but you still get them, and you're like, I swear,
right.
You know what I mean?
No one believes.
No one, of course.
But anyway, so that's the first order of housekeeping. The second one you just told me right before we started, and I can't help but address it. Said I've been getting torched from an episode a few weeks ago for saying that audiobooks are not reading. I said, I felt like I tried to say repeatedly throughout that whole conversation, I'm not saying that that's what I think. That's not what I'm saying. I acknowledge that they are reading. I was just saying that because I don't ever see my wife reading a book, and when she's just walking around with it, because I walk around with headphones in too, but it's a podcast or something. In my head, I'm not like, oh, she's reading right now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I do still count it. All right. You guys can stop roasting me. I do still count it.
Just pick something different.
Just pick something different. It'll be the drunk thing probably going forward. But anyway, we're so because we're doing this, we thought we're together. It hits when we're together. So let's do another. Plus, we got holiday shit coming up. I'll be in Wayne County, all this stuff. We're like, let's go ahead and get our next episode done, which hits, but we don't have all that much of a plan for it. So we've thrown some things together for you guys, right? What do you want to start with, Joe?
First off, right before I came up here, I got a little hungry, and I wanted to ask you if you've ever made confit, egg with the thing. I want to, if you know what I'm talking about. Like,
I know what confit
okay,
is.
But do you know the cured eggs things?
Yes, cured eggs.
Have you done that?
No, I've never done that.
That's wild how that works. Like, I just found, like, I'd seen it done, or so I knew that it was a thing, but like it wasn't until like a couple years ago that I actually saw like the process, which is essentially, and tell me if I'm wrong, because to me this is a way. You know, we had talked on the holiday episode last week about like what are some fancy Christmas things, you know, what are some blah blah blah, and I had mentioned to you that like my mom was really good at like appearing to be fancy when she's not, because, and my point that I put out was like, colored Christmas lights and white Christmas lights don't cost different, but white Christmas lights kind of make it seem like you have more money, or you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I'm always liking to add to that list of like little things that you can do that elevate your life that don't really cost that much money. And to me, the cured egg is like if you see it.
But here's the thing. We're talking about you brought it up by saying confit.
Yeah, they're different things. I saw the confit, which is the jammy.
Well, confit, that's when you like cook something entirely immersed in fat, right?
Right.
Like confit, garlic confit. Those are, it's like, which obviously leave it to the French, dude. All the shit they got that hit so hard is like designed to kill people, yet they all skinny and smoking and
That's
stuff.
The French problem, right?
The French paradox.
Or the paradox.
We've talked about it over the years, yes. But yeah, confit is when you take a thing and you cook it in fat, slowly for a long time. Curing is like a salt and aging process.
The egg confit and cured eggs looks the same in application, because the person had made an egg confit and I guess the egg was jammy and they were spreading it over toast. And that just got me to thinking about the cured eggs, because you can do the same thing with it, right? So basically, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, all you do, this is my point of like, putting a cured egg on something is going to make you look like you have a Michelin star, but it's all you do is you put a mixture of like salt and sugar in like a tray, and you just crack your eggs and you separate them, obviously. And then you just put the egg yolks in there, and then you cover it with that same mixture, and you just leave it in the fridge for a various number of days. And what happens is the eggs come out and the egg yolks come out and they are solid, right? And you can either spread them across toast, they get a little jammy, which like, again, looks super fancy. Or what I've seen a lot of people do, which I ain't done, but I was like, dude, this is how me and Trae elevate our game. They on pastas and stuff, they'll like shave the yolk on top of the finished pasta to give it that eggy richness or whatever, like you would Parmesan.
You can,
you know what I'm saying?
Spread and shave.
I think it depends on how long you cure it.
Okay.
Like the longer you cure it, the harder it will get. So if you go for like, and again, I don't know the days, but like a certain number of days, it's like, it's going to give it that jammy consistency. And if you go a little bit further, it's going to be more of like a hard boiled consistency where you can shave said eggs. And I've also seen people like soak them in soy or something before they did this.
Yeah, I know soy is another way to cure things. Yes.
Right. Anyways, it just got me thinking about all these little tiny things that you can do to 5-star your life up that don't actually cost money, like a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that salt and sugar and eggs are free, but you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, we'd mentioned it a bunch of times. Like I think like, to me, like zest. Yes, that's what I was about to bring up. It costs. You've already got the lemon. Like, you've already got the lemon. You were going to use it in your tea. Zest your shit.
And even just like shredding your own hard cheeses and that type of thing, like Parmesan and that sort of shit, like at home. Or like one of the lowest level ones, I think, that I got on board with, I mean, years ago at this point, but buying whole peppercorns.
Oh, you got
instead of buying just
mortar and pestle.
Instead of buying the pre-crushed black pepper. You buy peppercorns and you crack them yourself.
Yes.
And it really does make a huge difference. But it's like little things like that.
Toasting the pepper. Toasting the peppercorns.
Roasting garlic is another good one because it turns it into like a spreadable consistency, sort of. Yeah, no, there's a lot of like tricks like that with stuff that like you already got at home, and then you just apply these fancy techniques to it, and it takes shit up a notch.
And this right here is the New Year's Eve episode, right? Or the New Year's episode. Yeah. So my point is, a lot of y'all might be having a party and you're thinking like, it's New Year's Eve. I want to, have a nice cocktail hour and make it be fancy, but I'm on a budget. Like there is just like so many tiny little things you can do to make something look like it costs more than it did. Speaking of the cheese, I want to ask you if this pisses you off or if you've even seen it. Because yes, shredding your own cheese invariably hits harder than getting pre-shredded cheese.
Because apparently part of what they have to, with pre-shredded cheese,
they put a coating on it so it don't stick together.
Because otherwise it'll clump together and they can't have that happen. So there's like a starchy coating on it, which changes everything about it. Whereas if you shred it yourself, you don't have that, and it makes a real difference. Yes.
It makes a huge difference. Well, I've seen this trend on, I assume it's also on TikTok, but I've seen it on like Instagram Reels, where these women were talking about like, ways to kind of like what I'm doing right now, talking about ways to elevate things. But this one I seen it and I was like, this is just this, but with extra steps. Mm-hmm. Is this woman, she's like a crunchy mom or whatever. And to like keep her kids from ingesting certain things, she gets her pre-shredded cheese and washes that coating off of it. Like in the sink, she takes it and she puts it in like a cheesecloth or whatever. And it's like, bitch, shred your cheese.
I was about to say, to me, that seems harder than just shredding your own cheese.
Couldn't agree more, but she was like, this stuff is poison. You know what I mean? And I'm like, right.
But there's also things that I wouldn't even call fancy that are just like
better
competency.
Yes.
That like a lot of people like, they are like little tricks, but they do matter a lot for things like you got to like with your meat, you got to pat that shit dry.
Of course. Or you're not getting a sear.
You have to pat that shit dry. With like potatoes, you need to soak and rinse them. With rice, you need to rinse the rice, all this stuff that's like, it does take more time, but it makes a huge difference. And it's shit where it's like, if you cook it without doing that, it will get cooked, but it makes a massive difference doing these things. And there's all these little things like that you learn along the way of your own culinary journey when you learn how shit like that works.
Let me tell you the biggest one that like, it does take a little extra time, but you can just do it and then fuck off. It's not like it takes you hours. It just, the process takes hours. Just brine your chicken. Just I'm telling like the biggest difference you can make in a lot of meats is, aside from patting it dry or whatever, even if you don't have time for like an 8-hour to overnight brine, if you just brine your chicken for 30 minutes to an hour, it makes the biggest difference. Like I do in like pickle juice, or something like that, or like vinegar, water, sugar, brown sugar, a bunch of onions, garlic, whatever. Sometimes I just be going in there and I make like refrigerator brine where like I'll just be like, this would probably hit for this chicken to sit in for a while, and like, bro, your chicken's so much more moist. Like I literally, Amber was like, this chicken is like amazing. And I'm like, that's 'cause I made it and I brined it. Right. And she's like, well, I don't have time for that. I'm like, you do though, because you don't. It takes 8 hours, but it's not 8 hours of you doing a thing. It's 5 minutes of you doing a thing and waiting for 8 hours. You know what I mean?
The thing about stuff like that is it does require planning and thinking ahead and everything. And sometimes like you got a family and a busy life.
No, I know you can't do it every time. I'm just saying
it's not practical to do it.
I'm saying if you're having guests over, so your plan.
No, if you hosting.
Yeah. Then
obviously
brine your chicken or die.
But holiday season, sorry if we talked about this last. So the last episode, I don't remember a lot of, but like, I feel like most holiday drinks is, I feel like to me, they feel fancy.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm wondering if you
like mulled wine.
Mulled wine is the first one I was going to bring up. Like mulled wine, real eggnog, things like that. Do you fuck with those things?
So I'm going to need you. Yes. I mean, it's not my, so my granny, used to make what was called Russian tea. But really it was just like, I mean, god dang, it was basically like sweet tea with that also had like stewed apples and stuff in it and a shit ton of sugar or whatever. Russians ain't done none of this. Like, no, but it hit, it was delicious and you drank it warm or whatever. And like, and to granny,
did it have alcohol in it?
No, my granny's. Okay, we put it in there.
At first, that's where I was thinking the Russian came from. It's like, yeah, it's just vodka. A tea that'll get you drunk.
Right. No,
Russian tea.
No, my
like
granny.
Irish coffee.
Right.
coffee that hits.
Right. No, because my grandmother, as you know, like, she's probably the only sober person I've ever loved, actually.
Yeah, my mama was the same
but
way,
I love her because of that. But she was just a sweet
teetotaler.
That's
right.
it. That's it.
My mama
but
too,
by the way, not like
shitty about it.
Hell no. Like
she was married to a drunken sired. Well, not sired. That means a man. She mothered drunks, grandmothered drunks her whole life. So, but she herself didn't fuck with it.
I know that she would have rather me not, but she never was like, Corey, I'm so disappointed. Like, never. She didn't give a fuck what I did.
But would you drink or be drunk in front of her, though?
I did on my birthday.
Did you feel bad about it later?
A little bit. It was fun. It was funny at first.
I drank in front of my mama exactly one time. And the reason it was one time is because afterwards I was like, oh, man, I can't do that like that. Because I was probably 21. I was like, I'm a grown man. I'm 22.
Yeah, right.
Or whatever. It's like, I'm allowed if I want to. And so then I did. And then I felt so bad about it. And I never did it again after that. So, like any respect, I just got drunk in secret or whatever.
Oh, I never did it again.
Lied to her about the fact that I like to get drunk, like my daddy and his daddy before him.
No, I never did it again because literally. At my family functions when my grandmother was alive, we wouldn't drink it in front.
Right.
But
we
like
talked about this,
but
before,
it wasn't. And honestly, though, my family didn't really drink a lot at that time when Granny was like active in there. It just wasn't a part of it. You know what I mean? We'd go get drunk after the family function, but the only reason I did it is because it was my 21st birthday. So we went to Taco Mac because I get like a free meal and a free beer or something like that. And Granny's never not gone. I'm taking I love my Granny. Like she's going with us. And so they were like, you get a free beer or a free shot or whatever. And so I was like, oh, I'll do a shot. 21-year-old. What do you think I got?
Jaeger.
Yeah. So this is, I won't say it's the hardest I've ever made my grandmother laugh, but like top, it's up there because she had a really good sense of humor. So they bring the shot of Jaeger and Granny knew what was going on. Like she knew it was alcohol. She knew I just turned 21 and I took the shot and I just go, so that's what that's like. Mm-hmm. And she just fucking fell out. You know what I mean? Because she knew I'd been drunk for 10 years. Right. But she just fell out. So I'm saying, like, if she was like super teetotaler or whatever, that wouldn't have made her laugh. That wouldn't have hit for her. So, like, again, she weren't that way. But anyways, her Russian tea, any tea that you drink hot, to me, is fancy, right? And so we be having that on Christmas, but now we will put rum in it or something, like because Granny's gone, But yeah, so mulled wine. Now, I do need you to explain to me, because you said real eggnog, right?
So what I mean by that
what's the process of making it real?
It includes raw eggs.
Okay.
And a lot of stuff you buy in the store, whatever, it don't have that in it, because a lot of people are freaked out,
of course,
by drinking raw eggs. But the idea is supposed to be like the alcohol that's also in
kills the egg bacteria.
It makes it safe. It's fine. So you can make it. So like one time for a Friendsgiving, I made a big old jug of like legit eggnog with raw eggs in it. And like, especially a lot of the wives and girlfriends, a lot of the women were just like, what? No, you know, but Thompson's like, shit, I'll take it.
I've seen Rocky.
Yeah. Right. Like, yeah. So like it got a little bit and it was so fire.
Delicious.
It was so fire.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, in a potluck situation where a thing is like kind of half a hit, where some people are like, absolutely not. Because you get defensive about that.
Course,
you're like, this is a traditional thing. It's fine.
Yeah, right.
Whatever. But then some other people are like, God damn, son, that is fire.
And those are the people that hit.
Because it wasn't. Those are the people that hit. I.e. the men.
Nutmeg, cinnamon.
The dudes. Yeah, right. All the winter.
My mom
herbs and spice. Yeah, the winter. Yeah, nutmeg, cinnamon, cloves, allspice.
Yeah,
all that shit.
Well, yes, my mom's made it before, and that's how she made it. But I was making sure that there wasn't like some secret ingredient you were about to say that like she didn't do.
No, I meant raw eggs.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's great. Now, obviously, I only want like maybe 1 to 2 small cups or whatever, but it is delightful. And mulled wine, I'll have it as a nightcap.
We've covered at length before about how we like our wine on ice.
Yeah. So damn not
taking hot. Wine and heating it up with winter spices and all this shit on the stove is like, that's the opposite of what I want. But it does feel
it's nice.
Fancy. When it's cold outside, I mean, I get it.
And if like I'm not trying to get super drunk, it's just the family's around a fire. And like there is something to be said about warm alcohol hitting your belly and like immediately going to work.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
it's like
It's
what
like, about like cider? Y'all do cider stuff, like hard cider. Like
we'd never done hard ciders. Mom had always, she would just get a big pot on the stove, and have the apples and the cinnamon sticks and stuff in there and make cider. But we never did hard ciders because, again, like we just didn't really come up drinking like the other side of my family did. And now, like, my mom will, like, we all drink, but we all drink kind of different things. And my dad don't drink at all. So there's no, like, mass quantity of cocktail being made. It's always kind of like, well, everybody will just have what they want. Because, like, again, Dad ain't drinking. Kirby's very picky. Like, she only likes, 2 types of seltzer, and like that's it. Lloyd is only going to drink Montucky Light, which respect or whatever. Now Amber would drink car battery acid if we put it on the table. But my point is, like, we don't have a big family, so there's no, we're not going to make these big quantities. But actually, now that you've said this, I'm going to insist that Mom makes eggnog this year because that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it does hit. Do you guys do anything for New Year's, like your family and stuff?
New Year's Day. New Year's Day is
the
big.
Hog jaw and the black eyed peas and all
collard
that.
greens and that's my favorite day. Man, it's hard to. It's not okay. I don't love New Year's Day more than Christmas, obviously, but it's one of my favorite days of the year because, like, just when you think all the hits are over, there's one more. You know what I mean? It's like the first day of the year. Also, my mama's cornbread, dude, like, just unreal.
Yeah, I'm definitely going. Well, not definitely, because it depends on if by the time y'all are listening to this will have already been decided. But if my beloved Tennessee Vols manage to beat the Ohio State Buckeyes, and Katie don't even know this yet, that means they will play in the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day,
right?
In the next round, and we gonna be in Wayne County like for Christmas and through January 3rd, right? And they do the like Hog's Jaw and Black Eyed Peas and all that stuff. What Katie don't know is if we manage to beat Ohio State, like, I'm leaving.
Yeah,
if I got to rent a car and go, I'm leaving. Yeah. I'm going to like Cookeville where Thompson is and Chris and Cord Barlow and all these, and I'm in Charles. Charles.
I know Charles.
And I'm watching the fucking Vols game with them that day and pissing my family off probably.
Well, so. I think New Year's Day, like, look, obviously there's some people in any family that's going to be mad at you if you miss a holiday. But I think New Year's Day of all of them is pretty a fine one to miss. Dude, it's fine, especially if you've done Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, multiple Christmases or whatever. It's like you wouldn't do that on Christmas.
No,
of course. Even if same game, you wouldn't do that on Christmas. Like, if you don't have nothing going on, obviously spend it with your family. But, like, if it's the Vols in the playoffs, like, dude, who gives a shit? It ain't like Jesus was born.
Like my boys, these dudes I'm talking about, they also are my family.
Of course.
And we've put so much blood, sweat, and tears into the Vols not hitting for years and years.
Got to see them do it one more time.
It's like, exactly.
Together. But no, I do love it because not many more sloppable meals than the New Year's Day meal.
Yeah.
To just, what I normally do is, it's like I said, it's the hog jaw or some type of pork or whatever. Black eyed peas, which that's for luck. Collard greens or turnip greens, I think they're interchangeable, is for money, right? And those are the only 3 like requirements. Like, those are the 3 like mythical things. And then Mom also always does like mashed potatoes, macaroni and cheese, cornbread, and like just all the soul food type stuff.
Is that a Southern only thing, or is that a Middle America thing, or is that an American period thing? I don't know.
Look it up while I'm talking, because I want to know. But I do think that might be a Southern thing, and I only say that because I think I remember, because did I spend New Year's Eve in New York? I remember mentioning all this to someone one time that wasn't from the South, and they kind of didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. And I was like, well, maybe they've got their own versions of these. But, like, I'm pretty sure that the Trinity is just the black eyed peas, the collard greens, and the hog jaw. Like, those are the ones. Yeah, those are the ones you have to have because they mean something. But, my mom also, like, Laura James wants mac and cheese. So it's just all slop. And I like to take one piece. Go ahead.
It says, it's like largely a Southern tradition. Of course, like everything stole it from black people. It's a black American tradition.
Right.
But this says, and by the way, I'm reading this off like Google's AI, which has been comically wrong about so many things. But this says that although black eyed peas are most associated with New Year's traditions in the American South, they are also traditionally served on the Jewish New Year. Rosh Hashanah.
But that's not the one that means money, though.
Right, so that don't make sense.
I don't get it.
Yeah. What are they doing with them?
right.
Yeah.
No, that's for luck, though. I mean, everybody wants luck.
So yeah, I guess, yes, traditionally it's a Southern
right.
thing.
Well, that makes sense that the black people did it, but in this, I don't really.
Dude, every Southern thing,
right, but like
the black people.
The only way I would consider it cultural appropriation is if we went around saying that we did it or whatever. But like, dude, I'm sorry, but like the black people did something that hit, so we're gonna do it too. Like, why not?
And
like
we Southern whites have been doing all those things for generations now too. We did steal it from them.
Yeah, well, listen,
but at this point, I think you could just call it a Southern thing,
of course,
as long as
without
you acknowledge
that we took it from black.
It originated with the black people.
But some people get hardcore about the appropriation shit, and like I get it in some regards. Like I'm not gonna get braids and start going me one, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I'm not giving up cornbread and macaroni and cheese just because Thomas Jefferson made his slave learn how to do it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know how this is going to play or go over. Maybe we talked about it on the show before. I don't know, but I know we've talked about it off the show for years. But I've always gotten the impression that because of that whole dynamic we're talking about, a lot of black people in this country, a white person from the South who is clearly not racist,
right,
is the type of white person that hits the hardest for them or that they feel the most comfortable with, or whatever. Because if you from the South, it's like if you white and from the South, you have familiarity
for sure
with black traditions and black culture and that type of stuff. Whereas it's like white people from fucking Iowa or wherever, they don't. Well, like they don't have to, so they're like uncomfortable about it and awkward about it and shit. White people from the South are not.
Well, no, that's a thing is like you would think like, oh, well, people of the race, and like I guaranteed like a black person from the South and a black person from New York, even though they didn't grow up together, they both grew up black. And so they have that shared experience. Right, yeah. So they can bond over that. And you would think it'd be like, oh, well, people of the certain colors can just do that. So you'd think, oh, well, white people of all types could bond. But it's not like I meet Daryl, Southern black guy, me and him
so much more in common than a white dude from New York and
or my in-laws from Iowa. Right, even though they're all country and stuff, it's just because the South is so it permeates everything about us.
Well, we've talked before over the years too about how like I feel
which I love
when as I got older and I realized that white people in a lot of other parts of this country were real hardcore about being like, well, see, I'm Irish or I'm Italian, I'm Polish,
and we don't have that really.
And I've always thought we don't have that in the South because Southern supersedes everything else. It's like our culture is being Southern,
right?
So we don't have that, Italian, Irish, Polish shit or whatever that white people do in other parts of the country. So
and by the way, being Midwest is its own thing. But they also. I don't know that they proudly, like we as a Southern, like I'm Southern by God. Like I don't see a lot of people going, I'm Midwestern by God.
I think there's some Midwestern pride.
Okay.
Sure. And there's definitely some overlap between those two types of whites, Midwestern.
Oh,
and
dude.
Southern, for sure.
Amber's family in Iowa, like they're Midwestern.
Fat, drunk,
dumb, don't hit.
All
love
that
football.
Right.
Yeah, sure. But again, on a cultural level, me and a random Southern black dude will probably hit it off way quicker just if we hear each other's accents. Like that's it. That's all we need is like, man, where you from? And then like it's over. Like it's whatever. Cause like, yeah, you're right. Southern truly trumps everything. And like as Southerners, we always go, yeah, I'm probably Scots Irish just because that's where my people came from. But we don't really put a tremendous amount of stock into it unless you like.
I never remember hearing anybody ever talk about that shit growing up for me.
I'd always heard Scots Irish Cherokee, but just from songs and people would say it, like but passingly.
The Indian part, yes, that would come up, and that's a long running joke. It's like they're all part Indian or want to be. That part was definitely
I'm working on
a thing, but
I'm working on a bit about that actually, and I'm just going to run part of it by you right now, if that's okay. Is that everybody from the South, it's a running joke that they claim to be 1/16 Cherokee, right? And it's like everybody in the South claims to be part Indian, but the only time they ever bring it up is when some football team is being forced to change their mascot. Like they don't bring it up any other time. And that's weird because if you were that thing and you were proud of that heritage, it wouldn't just come up when Washington was putting a poll out to see what's going to replace the Redskins. But that's only it. It's only when they get to be like, well, I'm Indian and it don't bother me. Like never any other time. They're not, you don't just eat at a restaurant with them and they're like, well, because I'm an Indian, this corn is really good. Like they don't do that. It's only, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, but I just thought that was interesting. So I'm trying to build something around it.
Well, I feel like especially any type of controversy that comes up where that's relevant, they'll definitely do that. But I feel like growing up and stuff, especially like there's a certain class of like Southern girl or woman who has a whole kind of
wears a feather in her hair.
Yes,
and, yeah, right.
A kind of
Indian hippie
I hope
vibe.
this is not a. I don't
squall.
I was going to say, is that a slur?
I don't know.
Not a slur, but
not if you call a white woman that.
We've all known white girls from the, and I'm sure they're in other places too, but who have
New Mexico,
who have a like kind of squall aesthetic, where they're like, and it's like, no, I'm in touch with the fucking ancestors
Earth and stuff like that,
spirituality, and so
and they don't seem to be hateful about it.
No, they love it. They
right.
Like, I think a lot of times what don't hit about that for people is that they like fetishize it.
Well, of course, and also they don't otherwise look like that, so they've never been treated like a Native American,
right?
You know what I mean? And like, like just like that freaking Rachel Dolezal lady that and it's like. And everybody's like, what's the difference between that? And I don't want to get political. And they're like, what's the difference between that and someone identifying as whatever? It's like, because she doesn't know what it's like to be treated like this person. Like she didn't grow up with that. Like being black in America, you only know how that feels if you grew up being black in America. You can't just assume to know what it's like.
Right.
So like if you start being like, oh, I identify as the Indian stuff, it's like, but you could also just stop doing that and no one think anything else. Whereas like the Native American don't have no goddamn choice but to live that, experience it, be treated like that all the time. And you're only getting the good shit, which is bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, it is. But no, yeah, you know, race and ethnicity and all that's weird. It's a weird thing.
It super is. And we'll talk more about something different right after this.
All right, I'm going to tell you all about Lumen. What are we talking about? We're talking about metabolism. You know what your metabolism is? Your body's engine. It's how you turn food into fuel, all that stuff. It's one of the most important things your body's got going, really. And I feel like most of us don't understand it even a little bit. I know that I surely don't, or at least I didn't, until Lumen came into my life. That is, Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs, and it gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even your stress management. All you got to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fat or mostly carbs. And then Lumen can give you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on what your measurements were. If you'd like, you also can breathe into it before or after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time as you go throughout the day. Lumen will help give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. Cho, tell them more about it.
Yeah, I mean, I echo what you say in the sense of I've heard the word metabolism, but until Lumen, I didn't really know. I thought, well, you just have a certain metabolism and somebody else have another certain metabolism. But like the thing is that your metabolism can change based on the day or based on like what you did that day. And I'll be honest with you, because of that, I use my Lumen in sort of a kind of fat way because I care about my health, but I also still want to have a cheeseburger. And the great thing is with Lumen, you can tell when you're burning the most carbs or whatever. And it's like, hey, if you're going to have a cheeseburger, this right now would be the best time for you to have that cheeseburger. Because as Trae said, you don't just have to breathe into it in the morning. Like you can do it pre and post workout. You can sort of like just chart your body throughout the day. And because they give you these like plans to go on, you can like, you know, take out some of the thinking. Like this is what I need in order to make my body run the way that my body should. And, you know, we should all be worried about that because the metabolism, as Trae said, is the center of everything in your body. It is your freaking, just your motor, baby. And their recommendations are designed to improve your pre and post workout fueling and recovery, which is a big one, especially as well. Me and Trae talk about it all the time. The march of time that we're on. We're getting older, so we have to care about those things. And if you want to stay on track with your health this holiday season, go to lumen.me/POA to get 15% off your Lumen. That's LUMEN.me/POA for 15% off your purchase. Lumen makes a great gift too. And also thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this holiday episode. Skew.
All right, and we're back. You said something different. I've had a thing that ain't got nothing to do with nothing that I've been wanting to show you for a few weeks. So since we are kind of in a non sequitur position, I thought maybe this would be a good time to do it. It's an Instagram reel that like it's definitely on brand for the show, but I want to set it up by saying we oftentimes bitch to each other on text and in person, everything about like the scourge of terrible online comedy and stuff as people who do like so much stuff that will hit online is to me. It ain't good. Like, and I'm not talking about literal comedians. I'm talking about people, influencers and whatever that do like sketches and shit like that. And so much of it, I'm just like, that's barely even a joke. What is that? What are they doing? It hit, and this is hitting for people apparently. Another thing that pisses me off is like anything that someone comes up with that does kind of hit, all these other influencers will just steal it.
Right.
Just straight up steal it.
And be like, no, it's a trend.
And they'll be like, yeah, it's a trend. They give, and all that shit drives me insane. So, whenever I see a like mini sketch or something that's very much an internet sketch, and by which I mean there's no production value at all.
They would love to have done this for Comedy Central. It's just that they haven't.
So they just turn their phones on and do it. Right. Whenever I see one of those that I think is super legit and hits for me, I just love it
and want to shine light on it.
So this is an example of those for that example of that for me, and also. It's very relevant to our show, so turn this on and let's watch it.
Thank you so much for bringing me on board.
Michelangelo, it's a pleasure to have you here.
I mean, this job, the Sistine Chapel, it's...
Big job, big place, big job.
Well, look, I've got a few ideas that I've been working on, but I'd love to know what you've been thinking about.
Yeah, I was thinking, what's the thing that encapsulates the Bible and everything we do here the most? What do you think? Angels, right? That's
Angels.
That's in one word.
Well, I've read the book.
You read the book. That's good.
So we're thinking hundreds of eyes. They've got the wings. They've got a wheel.
Yeah, well, this is the, all that wheel stuff, all the wings and the being not afraid stuff. That's pretty played out.
Right.
So I was thinking, maybe this time, why don't we make them a load of young boys?
You want them to be young boys on the
I was thinking maybe this time we make them a lot of young boys. What about that?
Yes, so I've not imagined them as humans. So what do you think they'll be wearing? Or
Mikey, they're not wearing nothing. They're not wearing nothing in this one, Mikey.
Right.
Mikey.
Well, Your Holiness, thank you so much for bringing me on board.
Michelangelo, it's a pleasure to have you here.
I mean, this.
That's so goddamn funny, man. Hold on, sorry. Let me close this out.
So yeah, obviously we're talking about fine art and history and the fanciest place on earth, the Sistine Chapel and the Vatican and all that. So it's very POAE, but also it's just like the whole kind of like it's like a Hollywood pitch room type setting. The whole like you've read the book, that's great. Right. It's like so I'm thinking. So just the way they approach it is great. And also they both nail the two parts. They're in like the sleazy guy with the way, like, they're not wearing nothing. Wearing nothing, Mikey. Right. And like he licks his lips and all this stuff. And it's
pretty
just like
perfect.
that. It's like, I'm saying things like that. You watch that and it's like, these dudes are legitimately funny.
They're hilarious.
And know what it means to be funny. Whereas so many things you see on the internet, it's just people just fucking
pull the clip up on your phone so we can shout out their at. I don't even know why I didn't think to do that, but yes. Also, while you're doing that, I wanted to say, like, he mentioned there at the beginning. So you've read the book, and he's like, with the wings and all the eyes and like all that stuff or whatever. It's kind of wild to me that like those people take the Bible as like the infallible word of God or whatever, but are also very aware, like, we can't make them look like that. We can't make them actually look like what the book. So it's kind of like a movie version of what, like where like, in, Game of Thrones, they changed a couple characters that was like supposed to be purple and wild and stuff. Cause they were like, it just doesn't fit TV. In the book, it's whatever, but on TV, it would look weird. And like, we did that with Christian angels. And like, that
is weird. Because if the idea is this is real angels and what they look like, you shouldn't make Hollywood decisions to make them more palatable for a mainstream audience.
They already did it with Jesus. So like, but that's just changing the color, not the like general, what's their names?
Yeah, the Instagram names are Ed Knight and Patty is Young.
Go follow them. I'm sure the rest of their stuff is great.
And I think this is because, sometimes on Instagram, people will just steal someone else's stuff and post it. The caption of this says 2 years ago we did posted it, so I'm assuming it actually is those guys. Yeah. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I hope that's who it is. But also just the whole because Louis, obviously problematic, got that whole great bit about that same kind of idea where he's talking about dudes, these sculptors with patrons of the arts. And he's like, these little boys just pissing on my face, just pissing. And it's like, we've also talked before over the years about Genghis Khan. And after a certain amount of time, people were just like, he fucking kind of had it that. It's like he was a mass murderer.
Right.
I feel like it's a similar thing with pedophilia and whatever. It's from classic times where it's just you
just don't even think about it.
You see all these little boys with their dicks out
until
these masters were making, and you're just you never even question it, but then you're like, that's fucking wild.
Honestly, that Louis bit is the first time it even really crossed my mind. I'm certain that at one point subconsciously I was like, that's kind of weird, but then in my brain I was like, I guess back in Italy you just drew little boys with their dicks out, and that's as far as I thought. But it's why? Right. Especially because, again, as I said, it'd be one thing if that's how God described them in the Bible. They're little boys with their dicks out. It'd be one thing, because then you got to go, well, that's God. He said it. I don't know what to tell you. But to go from we got to change it to be something more palatable. That they put a little boy with his dick out.
You're right. The fact
is the window open?
Very open.
Yeah, right on. That
I can hear people out there, which means I know they can hear us, which makes it hit harder. Hopefully they're going to the show, because they're just gathering outside, listening to Cho talk about little boys' dicks. But yes, the fact that they
landed on that.
Their interpretation of the Bible was little boys with their dicks out or whatever.
Right.
And it's also, this was happening. Well, actually, this was way later than Greek times and stuff. But we just know that, little boys' dicks hit real hard for a lot of grown men for a very long time throughout history.
Especially those powerful Sistine Chapel-y some bitches.
Yeah, I guess they were supple and whatnot, so it just hit for guys. But it's and so, I guess it's a sort of the more things change, the more they stay the same type of thing, where it's it's just been a thing. But back then you could, I'm trying to think, artists today. Well, first of all, I've also always found it wild that used to all the hitness artists work for the Lord, because they had no choice.
And art was great, and gospel music was good.
And then now it's any type of Christian rock shit is so it's I love the Lord's older stuff.
Of course,
his earlier stuff was great, but
now their best artist is Thomas Kincaid.
It's just that whole thing is weird. It's weird, wild, but it's also what happened to the Lord over those years? You know what I mean? Christians back then, the high level Christians and shit back then clearly had really good taste or whatever.
Do you think they're the only ones that had money back then?
Yes.
They could commission Michelangelo to do something?
That's definitely the practical answer to it. But it's also just the fact that it still hit is wild when you think about what modern Christian art looks like. What's funny to consider, and this is not the case because I'm not denigrating masters like Michelangelo, but it's funny to consider that because they were the ones with the money and that's what they propped up, that is the Kirk Cameron movie of that era.
Yeah.
All the dudes that hit real hard weren't getting patronized by the church, so we don't know them or anything today.
Right.
And it's and so those dudes are you know what I mean? The fucking the Christian rock version of back then. I do not at all believe
but I've never even thought about
but it's funny to imagine that's the case.
Think about it. What if there was a dude back then who we would know today as hitting so much harder than Michelangelo or all them, but he was a devout atheist and refused to work for the church?
Right. Well, the thing is,
and he just denied. It's no, and he could have done Sistine Chapel times 1,000.
I think it's generally accepted that type of thing is true and has happened countless times throughout history, where it's not just with artists, but brilliant people.
Right.
So many Einstein level geniuses.
You never know them.
Born, lived, and died in the mud, of course, poverty in the Indian subcontinent or wherever, that type of thing. And it has to be true with artists.
The woman who figured out the Monty Hall problem.
Yeah.
I
was just reading about this recently.
I know, me too. And I wish I'd had it saved or something. But you know what? I won't say much about her because I don't know, but we'll talk about her later. But basically, she was so goddamn smart that she couldn't. I think it could barely do anything else. You know what I mean? Was not function. I think I could be wrong, but she used to write this. This is the part I do know. She used to write a column where people would write in and ask her like intellectual questions, and she, having the highest IQ on earth, like I'm pretty sure ever recorded. Like this is, if you just go by IQ, this is the smartest person that's ever lived, right? And so she would give these answers, and like science journals loved her and whatever, blah blah blah. And somebody wrote in about the Monty Hall game show and was like, "What's the move here?" And she's the one that said, "You should switch." And they were like, and people wrote in, like scientists wrote in furious. They were just like, "Hey,
you were like, this dumb bitch don't know shit."
Right.
Yeah, right.
And they were like, "You're perpetrating this and it is horrible. You've got a huge voice and blah, blah, blah." And like, she was right.
And I think
like 100% she was right.
I'm sure me and you saw the same thing on Reddit or wherever it was, because this came up recently and I was reading about it too. And I also don't remember off the top of my head, but I feel like at the time, in the moment, she got raked over the coals for this.
She did.
And not only that, but also people like believed the other. They were like, she fucked that up. She got that wrong.
Right.
And then she has since been vindicated.
Yes.
In retrospect.
Right.
But it's too late.
It's too late. And I don't remember if I read that it like drove her crazy or something like.
But dude, nothing
is worse than when you're right.
Earth,
right.
My whole life, nothing on earth has pissed me off more than when I know for a fact that I'm correct about something.
Right.
And I'm in an argument with some motherfucker who's saying that I'm not. Right. Like nothing has ever. That's why I always got so mad about like I said, like I'll get YouTube comments and stuff telling me to kill myself and everybody I've ever loved. And I'm like,
whatever. Water off a duck's back.
But the ones that have always gotten to me is the ones being like, this is clearly fake. That accent's fake. This dude's not. That's why they've always pissed me off the most, is because
it's wrong.
It's not true.
Right. It's wrong.
And I know that it's not true. And it makes me fucking insane.
And I can't make you believe me.
You can't. And I hate that. So like in a situation like she was in, dude, I would have lost my fucking mind. I can't
again, she's the smartest person on earth. Right. Yeah. But that shows how much smarter she was than everybody, because science journals and these people were like, she saw something that these other insanely smart people didn't see, because they were too stupid. To her, they were idiots. Right. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, dude, nothing is worse than that. And that's sort of, that kind of reminds me of that. This happens to me with Amber a decent amount, because Amber will just decide that if I say something, it's not true.
Of course, dude, Katie's
you know what I mean? Way. But like, it'll be something that I'm like, that this is kind of an area of expertise for me, right?
She's like, yes, but you're an idiot,
right? But then one of her girlfriends will tell her the exact same thing. She's like, right, and I'm like, just in the back. So it's like that Louis bit when he's talking to his daughter about getting some fig Newtons, and she's like, "Daddy, it's pig Newtons," and he's like, "No, it's not. It's fig." She goes, "No, I promise, it's pig Newtons," and he's like, "I'm not even going off memory here. Like, I'm just like, that's just true. Like, I'm not, I'm not making it like," and he's just furious at his daughter because she's like, "You're wrong, Daddy." And it's like, it be like that. Dude, talking to my wife is like talking to my daughter.
You were there, you were hammered and on pills or whatever, so I give you a pass. But I still to this day think about a day we spent together years ago filming a sketch that I wrote, and it was about gods, it was about religion. And like, I had a
Church of Satan, or the one where we had the round table of all the gods?
Round table of all the gods.
Did that ever get seen?
I don't think so. I hope not.
I loved it.
None of those ever worked out. But anyway.
I played a bro, right?
You were Zeus.
I was Zeus.
Who's like a gym bro in this world. But anyway, wait, no. I was Zeus. You were, what's he called? The Scientology.
Yeah, Zulu.
Is it Zulu? Zulu. No, Zulu.
L. Ron Hubbard?
Yeah, but no, they're Xenu.
Yeah, I played Xenu. Anyway, so I was just making like fish sounds.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, while we were filming that, it was me, you, and these other couple guys and these other dudes. They're Christians, right? And I'm not, and everybody knows that. But I wrote this sketch, and I had a running joke in it where we kept calling Jesus Josh, right? And they stopped. Like, at one point, they're like, "Stop, cut." Like, why do we keep doing this? And I was like, well, Jesus' actual like birth name was like Yeshua, right? Which is actually more appropriately translated as Joshua. But it's like the Greek, what's the word? Hellenist, what Greekicized? There's a word for that.
Yeah. But, is it Hellenistic?
Hellenistic also means Greek stuff, but basically it got Hellenized into Jesus Christ through the Greeks over the years, whatever. It's like, but his name was Yeshua, which was closer to Joshua. And I said this, and these other guys who were doing this with us, who are Christians, were like, "No."
Right.
They're like, "His name is Jesus Christ."
And it's like, and not in Aramaic,
Lord
it's not.
And Savior.
Right.
And I was like, Okay, but
it's funny that they were still doing the sketch, by the way.
It is, but it wasn't though. Right. And it's like, and it was the whole thing where it's like, hey, we go to church.
Right. So
we are Christians.
Yeah, right.
You admit that you're not a Christian, right? So like, you should probably just take our way. And it's, dude, I was losing my mind.
Right.
I was like, it's fucking true. God damn it. And I was going nuts. And again, I still to this day will think about that and get pissed off.
Yeah.
Anytime anything comes up that makes me think of it, like this conversation, I get mad all over again because I was right about that. God, that's true. But like you said, I could not make them believe it. And it drove me up the fucking wall.
First off, let me preface this by saying I'm in no way insinuating that there is no such thing as a smart Christian. That is stupid. There's a bunch of brilliant ones that I know. Not all of them are like that for sure. And I'm also not insinuating that you were the thing that I'm about to say, but I think everyone would agree that stereotypically, no one knows more about the Bible than a militant atheist.
Yes,
like a
militant. Again, I know you're not. I know you're not.
But what I'm saying is true. Like, because when you are a Christian, you can, like, dude, like just me with the tiny dick. Like, there's a lot of things you just take for granted because you go, well, the whole whatever. But like, atheists, you're reading the Bible as a Christian. You're reading the Bible to get hope, inspiration, to worship. They're reading it to poke holes in it. Mm-hmm. And when you read something to poke holes in it, you're a lot more attentive, and you're also not shrouded in the, well, this is all right. Like, you assume it's wrong, so shit pokes out at you that it wouldn't to someone who.
It also is like, because I've been like given awards by atheist organizations and stuff, and I've always felt a little bit weird about it. Because every time I've gone and I've done the thing, I've talked to these people, and they're great people and all that, but they're like so hardcore. And I've always been like, I really don't.
This is the same as going to church.
Yeah, it's like, I don't care. Right, exactly. It's like, I don't feel remotely as hardcore about this as y'all do. And what I have found is usually those people, and you have too, and you're still not one of them, so it's not an excuse. But a lot of the people that I'm talking about, the most militant of atheists, they were like hardcore traumatized by the Lord in their life.
Yeah.
And so,
it's reactionary.
I just grew up
without
the Lord.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't have that type of militancy or whatever. I think it's all silly, but I'm not mad about it.
Right.
For these people, they're like, again, they have like deep personal trauma with it. And so they're like more hardcore than anybody. And you're right. They can quote the Bible to you all goddamn day.
Oh, yeah.
They know each and everything about it.
Right.
Because their whole life revolves around it.
They want to know as much as they can to prove a Christian wrong at every turn. Right. And I have no interest in
even having that conversation.
No, right, bro. Like, I live in the South. Of course I got Christian buddies. Mm-hmm. I'm not, never once have I been sitting there like, let's talk about this. You know what I mean? Like, by the way, they don't either. You know what I mean?
Right.
And also, like, I'm not down with the Lord or whatever, but like, I'm not up my own ass enough to be like, I know what's happening and y'all don't. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying never. I'm just saying, like,
I know what you mean.
I could never call myself an atheist because that is such an absolute.
I feel
and I don't believe that only the Sith deal in absolutes.
Because see, a lot of both atheists and religious people, both sides hate an agnostic,
right?
Because they're like
an undecided voter to them.
Yeah, because they're like, pick a fucking side. And my whole thing,
there's not a side.
My whole thing has always been like, that is the most logical position
of course. Take. It's the only position to take.
It's like, because you believe there could be some man in the sky, and it's like, no, but I believe there could be some higher order of intelligence that we can't even begin to conceive of that is behind the overall fucking machinations of the universe or something.
Right.
Like, what if fucking 150,000 years ago, or not 150,000 years from now, some super advanced AI is created by mankind, but then that can transcend all of time and space and goes back in time. And it's like, that thing could be God. I don't know. It's like, I don't know that any of that shit isn't true. So, but I don't believe any of the Christian stuff either, but I'm not going to tell you that I'm certain that there's nothing.
Right.
Because to me, that's just as crazy.
You can't,
so it's like,
I just don't, because both sides are like, faith hates science and science hates faith. Or like with religion, they're like, there's no room for science. It's either a supreme being or it's nothing. And the science people are like, there's no room for a supreme being because of science. And I'm going like, what on earth says that both things can't be true? Right. That that science isn't real, but there's not some supreme being that has enacted all of this science and that both can't work at the same time.
Dude,
now, I don't give a fuck, but I ain't going to no building on Sunday and ruining football.
We talked about it on Well Read once years ago, but it's like, God could be dead.
Sure. A lot of people think so.
Like there could have been some type of God and he has long since abandoned us or whatever. Like that could have happened to, I don't know. But like, because dude, with the science stuff, I'm sorry, I guess I'm just not smart enough. But a lot of the things, when you start looking at like science's explanations for our origin and how we're here and the origin of life. And most scientists are just like, we don't know. We're still trying to figure it out.
Most scientists say that, and then the other people go, see?
But the best possible explanation they have for something, like, dude, the Big Bang and stuff like that, you get high and start thinking about that, you're like, what the fuck does any of that mean?
Who bunged it?
Exactly.
Who bunged the bang?
It's like, okay, so before that, there was nothing? What even is nothing?
You can't know.
What is nothing? Like, and it's like, so there's a whole lot of answers that science still ain't got, and it's like, you start looking into a lot of that, and it's like, I don't know. I guess the answer is just something beyond our capacity to rationalize or understand.
And the only person who ever could rationalize or understand it would be God.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Again, I do not actively believe in any kind of specific God or nothing, but the idea that it's just beyond us, that there is some kind of something, some sort of explanation or something out there or some reason or any of that. Like, I am open to the idea of that. Do I think that any religion in all of human history or currently extant has figured it out? No, of course I don't.
Right. But some might have some part right. Who knows?
Right. So yeah, I just don't know, and that's where, and again, people on both sides will get pissed at you for that.
And you're right. To them, we are like the undecided voters. Right. But in this situation, I'm like, no, that's the best position to take because, I did used to like argue with my mom because I would tell her I was like agnostic or whatever. She's like, no, you're not. And she would tell me that I believed in Jesus.
Of course.
And I was like, no, you can't do this to me. You know what I mean? And I would tell her basically, I was like, by the purest definition of being agnostic, so are you, because to believe in Jesus isn't to know, it's to believe, it's to have faith. It's to have faith that it is real, but you have no proof.
Faith is belief in the absence of proof.
Faith is belief in the absence of proof. And agnostic means I don't know.
Right.
Which means you don't know.
Yeah.
You choose to believe anyways, but you're admitting you technically don't know because you can't know. So by that logic, everyone is agnostic. Kinda. I'm just willing to be like, I don't know, what the fuck ever. But, man, you reminded me of, dude, head trippy shit. But you were mentioning, man, you really make me want to do another fuck yo shit up with Professor Cho, like a paradox episode. Something that's fucked me up for a long time that you said, and it just kind of reminded me of it when you mentioned you were like, before the Big Bang, there was nothing. And like nothing is the absence of anything. Like what? And
what even is that?
And one day you explained to me, like we were talking, I never thought about it, about blind people and what they see. And you're like, it's not what you see when you close your eyes. It's what you see through your elbow.
Right.
And every now and then I'll just
That's people who are born blind.
Right. Born blind, of course.
Yeah, right.
Every now and then I'll think about that and it will
fuck you up. I know.
I'm like, what is it? I've got to know.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, so in a blind, and now I want to go like in a born blind person's head, it's the same as before there was a universe. You know what I mean?
I mean, as far as what they see, but not what they experience.
Right. But I'm saying it's nothingness.
Dude, the closest I've ever come to having a legitimate full bore existential crisis in my life was I got, of course, a little bit too high years. I don't even fuck with weed anymore because I was
doing this too much.
But I took like 3 milligrams or something
just out of your gourd.
And then I got to thinking about nothingness, and the whole idea. It's like, what even the fuck is that? And like, dude, I almost completely unraveled.
I've done it.
Like, it was fucking me up so much. And it's like that type of shit, anybody that tries to act like, and I mean, I get atheists don't act like they understand the concept of nothing, but the idea that they're like 100% convinced that they know the answer to this one question.
I'm jealous of them.
Which is like, there is no God or higher.
Oh yeah.
It's like, you don't know that. Hell, we might live in a fucking simulation, dog. Who the fuck knows?
Like,
there's a million different answers there could be. It doesn't just have to be there's a fucking Judeo-Christian white dude with a beard on a cloud in the sky, or nothing at all.
Right.
Like it's not binary that way.
Like,
and I feel like the two sides, treat it like it is.
I think objectively believing that is less silly than believing that 12 dudes wrote a book about what happened and all this shit. However, I don't think they're as far off. Like, it's still silly to think that when you can't.
Right.
Because it's just a guess.
Well, it's also arrogant is what it is.
It's super arrogant. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, dude, we're arrogant as hell. Like, it's,
the other thing
it is a little bit arrogant to be like Christians are wrong.
We're very arrogant for sure. But the other thing I was going to say about it is that I've found I'm not on the same page with a lot of my like hardcore atheist fans that I have. Is like they make no concessions at all for any type of good or anything that religion can possibly do.
Right.
And it's like I'd have these conversations with them and I'd be like, well, look, dude, after my dad died and me and my sister were both adults and long gone, like my Meemaw, who's the sweetest person on earth, who loves her guy, she's since passed away, loved her gay son and accepted him, and also hated Donald Trump and all this other shit without getting too into the politics. But like, she was that type of person. In the aftermath of all that happening, she started going to church. Right. And it's like,
it helped her.
It helped her tremendously.
Yeah. They're not wrong.
Having this like support and these people who cared for whatever, who were around. Cause again, I was in fucking California and all this stuff. And it's like, I can look at that and see the value in that.
Of course.
And be like, there ain't nothing wrong with that. An old woman finding solace in the twilight of her life or whatever and doing it through religion. Like that's sweet. And I'm glad
it made her feel better.
And I'm glad that happened. Again, the stuff that they were saying at that church, do I believe any of it? No, of course not. But like, that ain't the point.
But it doesn't matter.
But most of the militant atheists that I've known, they won't make allowances like that.
Of course.
They'll be like, no, that still is, because you know what would have happened? They would have indoctrinated your grandmother further into this fucking hateful ideology, whatever. It's like, I know, but
not all of them, by the way, would have. Absolutely not all of them.
But they don't make any kind of concessions for religion at all. And I've always been like, I don't know. Sometimes it can be okay.
I know it is, because again, and every time we bring this up, like, me not being into the Lord aside, like, again, I do have a bunch of Christian buddies, and two in particular who I talk to all the time. Both either are or have been some type of pastor, right? And obviously you see on the news about Southern Baptist preachers or whatever. Every time you see them on the news, they're doing some horrible shit. Well, number one, that's the only way they're going to make the news. So that's just kind of a little paradoxical in itself. It's like, if you don't hear about them, it's because they're not this, and you don't hear about most of them. Mm-hmm. I know these people. I know their heart. They are doing quote unquote the Lord's work. Yes. Like also, by the way, there's a lot of preachers that wouldn't talk to me.
Of course. You're right.
But they're still my friends. I'm not going to name any names, because like that, I mean, not that they would, I'm praising them, not that they would care, but I'm just not going to. I'm talking about, feeds the needy, has several meals a week at the church for not only anybody can come through, but like, specifically for like people at the church, don't feel guilty. We know it's hard now. You come here, you get something free, take a plate home, whatever. No judgment, whatever. Constantly. And a lot of people don't know this about pastors. And by the way, not all pastors are like this, but a pastor's kind of like, you remember when we were talking last night to our non-comedian friends about how kind of like you do the show for free, you get paid to travel, right? Well, a big part of a pastor's job is that if they're a good one, it's not just they're preparing their sermon all week for Sunday. They are going out and doing things during the week. Like they're visiting, like the one dude I know, he's like John Cena. He's at the hospital every day, whether it be someone is dying or just someone from his, parish or whatever is ill. He's going there to talk to them, see if they need anything, visiting nursing homes, all that stuff. And it's all consuming. And guess what? He loves it because he was called in his brain by the Lord to do it.
Right.
But also he's just a good dude. And so like, yeah, I refuse for any militant atheist to tell me that my buddy is wrong and that he's not doing any type of good. Because the thing is, like, hypothetically, if he's wrong and afterwards nothing happens, he didn't do no harm.
All he did was help
all he did no harm. Like he kind of
did a lot of good.
He did a great amount of good,
even though it doesn't matter in the end. It mattered along.
And by the way, I'm not going to say either one of their names. Trump don't hit for either of them,
right?
And,
so I have
you know how I know. Well, A, they've told me, but B,
they're legitimate Christians,
good people.
Right,
yeah, they're good people.
Yeah, right. No, I have my brother-in-law. He's a pastor, and he's like that. And again, I love him. He's a great dude, man. And he's like you said, he's like an actual good Christian. So, like you said, we try to stay away from politics, but he can't stand Trump either because he's a good Christian, and
that's not what that is.
His eyes work,
or
whatever.
He probably don't like the Democrats either, but like that's
he don't.
But by the way, as a pastor, you're kind of supposed to be removed from all that.
But he's a good guy, and like. And I don't just mean the type of things you were saying. I mean, he does all that too. But what I'm saying is like me and him have gone to like Lakers games together. Like we can like hang out and like have a good time. And he knows my deal and I know his deal.
Right.
And we're still fine. But like, and he's like,
so he just hung out with lepers.
He's just a good dude.
Right.
And recently when they had a death in the family on my wife's side, it fell on him because he's a pastor to like preside over the funeral and do all this other stuff or whatnot because he's the man of God in the family. Of course. And it's like,
and he stepped
that
up.
Shit wasn't easy, and he stepped up, and I was very impressed by it.
Yeah,
and like because that's not easy to do, but he's just legit in that way.
Yeah.
So yes, I have people like that in my family too, and because of that, I just can't ever. There's a million reasons I can't be that level of militant about it, but that's one of the reasons, right? Because of that.
Yeah, and it's like the indoctrination aside, like for some people, it's just the only sense of community that they have, and like that can be enough. Like for my grandmother, dude. Again, like I said, my grandmother never heard her say nothing about gay people. Never heard her say. And she believed in the Lord and she praised. She had her Bible. She read it every day. Probably just her favorite passages. I don't think she was like studying or whatever. But, she's just one of them people that like, she would just be like, I got to read my verses today, whatever. But like, she loved her Sunday school and they did everything for each other. And that was just where she went and saw all of her friends. And like, they're just, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that part. Now, again, that same church eventually got into the whole none of y'all's kids can watch Disney movie shit. And now that I got no time for, zero time for. All I'm saying is like, yes, as you said, to act like there can't be any type of good that comes from a situation like that is inherently insane.
Right. I mean, it's like I got another buddy whose dad is like a deacon in the church that they all go to and stuff. And it's like, I know his dad and I love his dad. His dad's a great guy. I've known him for years. He knows my whole deal and we've remained cool. He hits for me. But my buddy once told me as a deacon, my buddy was saying it in a self-aware, isn't this insane type of way, but they were going through a whole thing where they were all meeting and they were amending it's probably not called the Constitution, but the equivalent of the Constitution for their personal church.
The church accord like or something. The bylaws or the accord or something like that.
They were amending that to specifically state that gay people were not allowed because previously it was kind of a gray area and they were having to take care of that.
Right.
And it's like, it's fucking complicated. You know what I mean? As somebody who's very close to my gay uncle and of course loves gay people, I hear that and I'm like, that's so fucked up and it don't hit for me at all. But as somebody who knows that dude and spent so much time with him, it's like, I can't help but like him because I know so it's like, it's just complicated. I didn't know we were going to get all existential and
you started with Michelangelo, and then
I just want to talk about how fun it is that they used to paint a lot of little boys' dicks and stuff.
Me too.
And then 20 minutes later, we're like, what even is nothing? What is the answer to all this?
We'll get back to that. I would just like to say that the reason that and it was my fault that I went down that whole rabbit hole, but the reason I did is just because like, we do have some Christian fans, like we do. You wouldn't think we would, but we do.
No, I know.
We've gotten comments before about like us dunking on or whatever, and like I was like, oh well, they don't know that I also feel this way. It's because they never got the context. Because like when I'm saying it, in my brain, I'm like, well, I'm an equal opportunity, like I dunk on everybody, but like in my brain, it was fine because I also feel this way. But I was like, well, they don't know that I feel that way, so maybe I should tell them that I feel that way. So yeah, again, my problem is with the bad stuff with the religion. I do not think every Christian is a bad person. I don't think every liberal is a good person. This world is complicated, and thinking about seeing through your elbow is wild.
Super wild. I think the best thing we could do after spending all that time talking about religion and giving Christians their due and everything is I think you should get that porno magazine that you got earlier. Yeah, we found we're in the comedy condo at Zany's. Yeah, we can
after you explain this, and then I'll look something up.
We're at the comedy condo at Zany's, and downstairs Corey found a vintage porn mag or
a forum, which I think is the fanciest
penthouse forum, which we think is like it was meant to be fancy at the time. And we're going to see what we can find in it right after this.
Good call.
Does Blue Chew work? Well, if you're sitting there asking that question, you ain't been listening to us or our dick talk recently. We want you to know that Blue Chew is ready and raring to put their money where your dick is. They'll happily do it. They'll give you a month free. You can prove it to yourself. What more you need to hear? If you don't know what I'm talking about somehow, Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. The process is very simple. You sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made right here in the U.S. of A., prepared and shipped directly to your door, which is the best part of the whole thing. You can do it all on the computer there. That means you ain't got to go to the doctor's office, have any awkward wiener conversations, wait in line at the pharmacy, run into your old guidance counselor as you're getting your dick pills. You ain't got to do none of that anymore. You can do it all on the computer with Blue Chew, and you can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead to get down, or you can be ready to get down whenever an opportunity comes up. Joe, tell them more.
I tell you what, I absolutely love Blue Chew. Been using it for a long time, and sometimes my friends will ask me, they're like, does it work? And I'm like, bro, it makes my dick harder than getting left out of reindeer games. You know what I mean? That's difficult.
That's tough. That's a tough time. Yeah.
It's tough, man. It's really hard. And by the way, you can just try it for a month and see. And if you don't like it, they'll give you your money back. It's like you're not going to lose anything. But I know you're going to love it, because the thing is, it's not saying like, oh, I got a problem in the downstairs department. It doesn't have to be that way. Sometimes you just want extra confidence, because there's nothing sexier than confidence. And Blue Chew can help give you the confidence where it counts. And Blue Chew, by the way, they want men rock hard. They told me that's the mission. They will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house, till every tent is pitched, till every rod is raised. Discover your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our audience. Try Blue Chew for free. Just pay $5 shipping at checkout when you visit bluechew.com. That's bluechew.com to receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring Puttin on Airs and giving you a dick harder than it is to fit your fat ass down a chimney. You know what I mean? So thank you, Blue Chew, for sponsoring the podcast. And also, Trae,
get you a new dick.
Get you a new dick. Why wouldn't you?
All right, and we're back. So yeah, to make it very clear, we literally, Corey found this forum from May of 1984 downstairs in the comedy condo right before we started, and we were like, yeah, grab it, bring it up there. Yeah, it's fancy. Look how fancy
it is. Well, I just feel like the forum was always the more like, you know, whereas what's it called? What was Hustler? Was that the wheelchair dude?
I haven't been holding my microphone. Yeah,
that's they could hear you. Hustler was Larry Flint, right?
Flint, yeah.
Right. Well, that was pure smut. But yes. I feel like the Penthouse Forum was always the one where it was like, this is for the sophisticated jerker offer.
The other thing that I feel like the long running stereotype about Penthouse Forum was that like it clearly was all made up, or whatever.
Right?
Like people just wrote in.
No woman ever wrote this shit.
Right. Yeah. But people used to buy it for a while. So again, we haven't curated this yet. I'm just going to flip through it and see what pops out. And some of it's probably going to be problematic. We'll see. But the first thing here is a quote in the middle of a story. They've pulled a quote out of it. It says, the female without the experience of perfect union in orgasm will have that as her goal, but some males don't see much difference. Like truly groundbreaking. Right. You know, they were just figuring that out in 1984.
Well, hold on now.
Like some men, yeah.
Let me ask you this, like, because there's a big difference between both of us are going to get ours and both of us experiencing it at the same time. Like, yes. That is kind of crazy to me. Like, I don't.
What do you mean by crazy?
Well, like, I'm that's obviously happened with me before, I'm sure, where it's both happened at the same time. But like, a woman and a man both got different strokes, literally. Like, it takes one longer to achieve the whatever than it does the other. So like being able to like time that, like, I think Big Ed used to have a joke like, God damn, I can't even make biscuits and gravy get done at the same time. But like being able to like, not to sound horrible, like come together is, that takes
right now
over me. But yeah, that's what, because usually for me, what I do is I
make sure she gets hers. And then you just,
and I'll still try afterwards, but it's basically just like, just in case you good.
I don't know how this is going to come across. It's also weird knowing that my wife listens to this, but what I generally try to do is like, because I can usually just like, I have to like concentrate and try real hard to keep going.
Right. Yeah. And I don't, right.
When it starts to happen for her, I will just typically, I'm just like, here it is.
Yeah.
So we come together very often.
Yeah. Right.
Which does hit. And every now and then I'll miss that boat and then I have to just, when she gets done. But yeah. So.
I like, me and Amber treat it like a service job.
Yeah.
Which by the way, we like that. It's just, but I just like make sure she gets her deal going on, because sometimes, man, you just want to and roll over.
Bro.
You know what I mean?
Listen to these two ads. So I knew there'd be shit like this in here. First of all, the only upside of this is knowing with certainty that, of course, this doesn't work and it's complete snake oil.
Right.
But there's two ads on top of each other. The first one, it says, attract her instantly. Scientific proof.
Oh, God.
Start a spontaneous reaction in anyone you desire. They call it scientific sex appeal and instant charisma. All you do is sprinkle a few drops on, and the potent but almost imperceptible aroma goes to work subconsciously to make you suddenly more attractive, more impressive, and more desirable to her. She cannot resist getting turned on to you. It's a program called Potent 8. So this is a love potion.
Right.
Is what it's supposed to be. But it's also like just,
pheromones.
Well, yeah, but it's
bullshit.
It is entirely bullshit. But it's just like, hey, you ever want to date rape somebody?
Right.
That's one way you can make that happen. But
you ever want to get a woman in bed through no merit of your own?
The idea of love potions have existed, been around for a long time, and it's like in our current modern lens, looking back at them, it's like they're obviously problematic.
Of course,
it's like, even in Harry Potter, they had a version of that, right?
Yeah,
where it's
they did.
And it's not, obviously
it wasn't Felix Felicis. That's the luck.
That's
it was
the luck potion. But
I can't remember what it was.
I can't remember what it's called either. But they, the literal date rape drug just makes someone like fucking.
They pass out. They don't fall in love with you.
Right, exactly. The idea of having a thing that could make a person fall in love with you is, of course, also like fucked up, but
it's magic.
Different from that.
Of course it is.
Because it's like, if it actually worked, that person, they then do love you.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up
if they then do love you, like, I don't know. It's obviously not cool to magic someone into loving you, but it's like
Spanish fly. That's the Spanish fly.
Bill Cosby loved that.
He did. And but again, though, you're right. So the thing that Bill Cosby ended up getting in trouble for was that he was quaaluding them. And so they were unconscious. He had a bit on, I don't know if it was Cosby himself or whatever, was about putting Spanish fly in something they drank. Now that also is even different. If you put something on yourself and it attracts women, again, weird. Of course, it doesn't work. But if you put something in they drink, like you're not allowed to put something in somebody's body, I don't care what it is, without them knowing. You know what I mean? Unless you make a banana pudding and you're like, I'm not telling you my secret ingredient. But like Spanish fly, the point of it was like, if I'm not mistaken, it didn't make them unconscious or nothing. It was like oysters are an aphrodisiac. It was like a hardcore aphrodisiac where she'll just be in such the mood and you're there, and therefore
I think yes, the idea with aphrodisiacs,
he put in his barbecue sauce in the show.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. That whole segment of that show, when you go back and find it on YouTube, is truly wild.
Everybody just fucking at the barbecue.
Yeah, but number one family sitcom.
Yeah,
but
America's Dad.
But yeah, no, people like aphrodisiacs are totally fine, because the idea with them is like
you're doing
it together and you're both on board with it. So something that makes you both randy is a lot of fun, but like slipping an aphrodisiac to a person.
You can't do that.
So the other ad here, it says, get any girl within minutes and pay nothing.
Oh my God.
7 steps to psychic mind control.
Oh my Lord.
This is a program you can sign up for that will teach you how to psychically mind control women into banging you. It says it's incredible but true. 7 steps to psychic mind control gives you 7 simple principles any man can learn in under 1 hour, and you can then put your psychic mind control to work immediately. These 7 principles guide you step by step until you find yourself meeting loads of women, the ones you only dreamed of being with before. You will turn them on, and you will be confident you can do it every time.
How much does it cost?
Let's see here. Well, again, it says
you have to pay postage or something.
Full 30-day money-back guarantee.
Right.
But you have to enclose $10 plus $1 shipping and handling.
Of course.
So $11
for them to send you a pamphlet of stuff that they've just got printed up.
Yes.
It's not like you meet with a person and they guide you through this. Dude, they made so much money because they had zero overhead.
Right.
Like some dude with a little bit of starting cash came up with this pamphlet, spent all his money on an ad in the forum, and then the rest on postage, sending that out to dumbasses.
Okay, so this next one,
it's on theme.
I'm only seeing this. It is on theme. I'm seeing this for the first time. I haven't read the actual article, but there's an article in here that the headline of which, or the title of which is, "Have you committed statutory rape lately?"
Yeah.
And the subtitle says, "Sex with a teenager can be a crime." Punishment varies according to age and state. And you can just tell that this is like meant to inform men that's like, hey, like, you could get in trouble for fucking a teenager.
Right.
You know
now,
that, right?
Like now.
Like that's what they're doing out here these days. Men are getting locked up just for fucking, did you know about this? Have you heard about this? Listen, this is real stuff. That's literally the point of what this is.
But this is so 80s because you're right. Like nowadays, like all we have is just like, hey, statutory rape is happening and blah, blah, blah. But everybody knows what it is. But in the 80s, everybody was just so oblivious on coke.
And the quote they pulled from it says, "In some states, rape laws are gender neutral. This means a 17-year-old woman could very well be charged with raping her 16-year-old boyfriend." The only way to interpret that is that them being like, you see how bullshit these laws are? I mean, this don't even make any sense. You're not allowed to fuck 16-year-olds anymore? What are we doing here?
Is this before or after the Romeo law?
I have no idea.
Because I thought the Romeo law would have protected a 17-year-old and a 16-year-old.
No, I think Romeo laws definitely do, but I also don't know. First of all, 17 and 16-year-old, those are both kids.
That's fine.
States, but anyway, they I don't think every state is different, I think.
Right.
Some of them have Romeo laws and some don't or whatever. But this is all a bunch of sex toy ads. There's one here. That right there says nothing feels more like real oral sex than our sculptured cavern of passion. And that's straight up a fleshlight.
Oh,
Look
you
at that, 1984.
It sure is. You got to take a picture of that and send it to Burns so he can, or put it up to the camera right there just in case we forget to do all that stuff.
Well, there's a lot of dicks on here. This ain't going to hit.
Oh, right. Yeah, we shouldn't. Yeah, but they're not real dicks.
No, yeah, you're right. Is it okay to have pictures of not real dicks on?
Well,
anyway, that's the
we're gonna find out.
Fashion right there. You guys can see it. It's a fleshlight.
It's straight up a fleshlight. I thought that was new.
Fleshlights were treated like a grand innovation when they came out about 10 years ago. Looks like they had them figured out in '84, which is like not at all surprising.
Oh, dude.
Yeah,
No.
You make like a tube you can fuck.
No. I know what it is.
Man, we're doing that.
The innovation was not making a tube you can fuck. The fleshlight is a tube you can fuck that doesn't look like a tube you can fuck. It can be hidden.
Right. Okay.
So that right there, if somebody finds that, they're like, that's clearly a tube that he fucks. But a fleshlight looks like a flashlight. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the progress was in the concealing it. Is that conciliary? Whatever.
Conciliatory means like you are conceding
it. Yeah, right. The progress was in concealing the pussy tube.
Yeah, they got two-way dildos in here, double-headed dildos. That's fun. They got some butt plugs, some ticklers, lube, vibrators. Again, this is 40 years ago, dog.
The double-headed dildo insinuates that they think women are reading this or gay dudes. I don't know.
I mean, you could have I guess if it's double-ended.
Double-ended to me means two chicks need it for their, I
don't know. Who knows? Just make a hit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, obviously it's fine. I'm just saying, like, these companies, though, like, they oftentimes, you'd mentioned on, you were talking about it on stage last night, which was killing me. And I've heard you talk about this before about how, like, when you used to get in like AOL chat rooms or whatever, and you do like age, sex, location, and now you realize all those hot California girls were actually just 50-year-old dudes beating off.
Right.
Well, like, I feel like a lot of this type of stuff was them trying to convince all of us that this type of shit hits for women and that women actually write in and stuff. When
100%.
in reality, it's a bunch of dudes writing this, the
100%.
male fantasy of what a woman would do. Have you seen the movie? Oh my God. It's got Shiv from Succession and Ethan Hawke, Predestination.
Oh no, I've heard that's good though.
It's
Is that
great.
good?
It's great. Now I know how you are with like time travel stuff.
Uh-huh.
I genuinely think it would still hit for you.
Okay.
But anyways, this isn't a plot point or nothing. But there's a dude in there who like, he's a dude and it's his job. He's the one that writes those type of things. You know what I'm saying? And later you realize a lot of other stuff, but what the fuck ever. And it was just like, yeah, that makes sense that a dude would be writing it for other dudes pretending to be a woman, because women don't give a fuck about, writing that shit.
Well, actually, the thing that's weird about that is we were just talking about your wife. That's what caused my whole controversy with my wife and reading books. Women love to read smut, and a lot of them are written by women too. A lot of those books are written by, so like
they do.
Smut is like a woman thing, but they don't
purport it to be true.
And yeah,
they don't purport it to be true.
Right. And it's like written by women for women and stuff. This shit was definitely written like for dudes.
Of course, for dudes to think women were writing it, to be like, look at this horny chick.
Right.
Now, obviously, maybe today I'm not saying you couldn't have a woman do that, because like you said, like there's plenty of women that write smut. But like back in the 80s, that magazine was just ran by a bunch of dudes and they were like, we'll do it. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think they were hiring a lot of women to do that. I think it was just a dude who was like a good writer. You know what I mean? Because you got to make it seem real and sexy or whatever. But like, it's all just dude shit, in my opinion.
It is all just dude shit. You're right. All right. Well, I think we need to wrap it up, buddy. We got to go over there and do a show.
We do.
Put our clothes on and go hit.
Thank y'all for having come out to at Nashville. Obviously, this is several weeks from then. And also thank y'all for having come out to see me at the Comedy Catch in Chattanooga. Trey, you got any?
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out to Chicago.
Yep.
I hope that Vols game went my way, but we'll see. In 2025, I've got a ton of dates coming up. I'm in Washington State, 2 separate weekends. I'm in Santa Barbara and a bunch of other places going forward. So go to TraeCrowder.com. Check it out.
I would love it if you would go to welovecorey.com and subscribe. It's where I do all my bonus podcasts and essays and stuff, the stuff that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution won't let me print, along with bonus videos, rants. I do live streams and stuff. welovecorey.com. It's $5 a month for everything. So there you go. And well-read podcast and weekly skews and Gravy Baby. Stay in touch with the entire Skewniverse, and also stay fancy, motherfuckers.
Skew.
Here's Lydia Lovelace.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Royalty and rednecks are alike. They both like cutting and picking fights. Biscuits and baked beans where they don't belong. Sit on down with Corey and Trae and learn some fancy shit today. We'll laugh a little even when they're wrong. They'll take you to a magical place where if you call someone a cunt, nobody cares. They keep it debonair at putting on airs, putting on airs, putting on airs.